Thank you so much, Professor Roxana, for being here. Next in row, I would request Dr. Muid Yusuf to please join us. He is again repeating the same narrative. He was a Pakistani national security is currently Pakistani national security scholar and the Vice Chancellor at Beacon House National University. He also happens to be one of the youngest individuals who was appointed to be the Prime Minister's National Security Advisor. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Last but not the least, I would request Dr. Akif Chaudhry, the Vice Chancellor of University of Education, to please join us on stage. Again, Dr. Akif is an institution within himself. He has been running large-scale research and development initiative across the country. Thank you so much to all of you for being here today. And just on a side note, three of them are my mentors as well. So thank you so much for being here. All right. When we were thinking about chalking out this panel discussion, we had been thinking of inviting different individuals from different sectors of life. But particularly, the reason why these individuals are sitting here is that all of them have a story of resilience. So, what we'll try to do is, in a very candid manner, we'll try to unpack some of the key lessons that they bring to the stage in the light of their own personal experiences. So, the panel talk would be essentially focused around the agenda of sustainable development, global citizenship, and youth of today. But we'll try to look at it from the perspective of these industry leaders. So, thank you so much for being here. I would start posing some of the questions and we'll try to keep it conversational. So I'll start off with Dr. Akif. Thank you so much for supporting this initiative. If you could talk about that, how can universities in Pakistan embed the development of transferable skills such as communication, problem solving, and adaptability into existing degree programs? Because we have talked about it becoming a part of the culture in silos. But do you have any recommendations for the academicians who are sitting here right now?
Thank you very much for having me here, first of all. I hope that that's not out of necessity, but it was, but this was something that I do really so that was the right one. But yes, I think this is a very important question. In any academic higher education environment, there will always be norms, there will always be rules and regulations which over time will develop and they should develop. It is our hope, as any pragmatic member of the higher education ecosystem, that this development and this evolution is at par with the requirements and needs of our people. So it is this bridge that we always want to build. At the same time, when we talk about 120 credit hours, 135 credit hours, we will be talking about certain curricular components. Um, Achieving our career aspects in addition to the Talim, as also rightly mentioned, is not will not necessarily only come from what we place as the components of this curriculum, but a lot of it also has to do with how we deliver those contents. And when we talk about delivery, we are not only talking about our students, we're not only talking about the cognitive load, for example, which varies whether we are offline or in physical platforms. We are also talking about the educators, the teachers, the administrative staff that is involved. So we have to build in that pragmatism, that progressivity in our curricular delivery, in addition to what the curricular components are, if we want to achieve these objectives. And there's another phrase that we don't use that often, because it is essential for learning, because it essentiates it readies you for the need to learn in order to be able to evolve. So I think we must talk about delivery, the way how we are delivering our curriculum, before we talk about how it is being perceived and performance objective of our students, because this discussion must precede the outcomes. Sometimes when we don't have outcomes, we feel a bit dejected, or we feel that there are a lot of challenges. The outcomes are probably third or fourth in the line. Before that, we get effort. Before the effort, we have needed. Before the effort, we have the dream or the obligation. So I think it's very important to talk about delivery in addition to what we have in the programs.
Right. I completely concur with that. As I myself have been in the private sector and I've seen these instances being embedded in the private school curricula. Extending on the component of pedagogical competence, I would pose my next question to Ms. Farah Masood. Since you lead a premium education institution in Pakistan and you have a career track of leading large scale interventions, my question to you would be that let's assume the delivery aspect, the curriculum talks about these competencies inherently, but what are some gaps that you see in terms of transferable skills of youth that you have been hiring or you have been talking to, both in the capacity of as teachers and students?
Assalamualaikum everyone. And Ruth, I would just build upon what Dr. Akif and Dr. Mui have just said in their address. We, the Pakistani society, unfortunately, we have become an A-oriented society. We are obsessed with A grades. We are obsessed with percentages. And as you have just asked, I have been, interviewing the youth, I would say, because I get fresh graduates from different universities, like LAMS, LSE, to name a few. But when I interview them, what I feel is that when I look at this CV, excellent GPA, excellent programs they have graduated from. But when it comes to their communication skills, or interpersonal skills, or critical thinking skills, they lack. They could be very good students. They must have achieved very high grades, but they are unable to put their thoughts effectively, maybe verbal or written. They do not have the skill set to resolve conflicts. They just give up. They just want to have the shortcut to success. They don't want to work hard. There is lack of consistency. So the skill sets which we need in today's 21st century world, they are missing. At times, I do get teachers to hire who are not coming from very high ranked universities, but they have the passion to learn. And somebody who is a lifelong learner will always grow. So, as Dr. Moik has also said, तालीम तो है, तरबियत नहीं होती है. So similarly, we are nurturing out students who have the degrees but no skill sets. Lack of communication skills, as I said, time management skills are not there. They do not know how to prioritize their tasks. They do not know how to make a checklist to reach their final goal. They do not know how to reflect. So these are the skills which I feel they are missing. So as a school, since I am running an international baccalaureate school, and the reason why I shifted to this program like 13 years back was that I felt that the stream of education I was working for was just producing degrees and not lifelong learners. So that's what I personally think in today's, in Pakistan, I would say, the skill sets are missing.
Right. Very aptly put that degree can only take you so far, but it's the skill set that takes you ahead. So, extending on that, I would pose my next question to Dr. Mood Yusuf. We've talked about skills, we've talked about competencies. Can we maybe talk about some of the policy frameworks which can be employed to integrate competencies of global citizenship, especially in spheres which are not urbanized?
Um, thank you, thank you. Look, I mean, I think personally, I don't think there is a way to global citizenship without local citizenship. I don't think there can be a jump to becoming a global citizen, embodying the kind of value set that you have in mind when you say global citizenship, unless you have first imbibed the importance of local citizenship and local community. तो हमारा तो अभी वहीं पे मामला जो है वो ठीक नहीं है। So, जब तक हम वो नहीं करेंगे, yes, you can create islands, you can create a group, a small number of individuals who can espouse what you're thinking. But as a society, unless local community norms are linked to responsible citizenry, I think it's almost impossible to talk about global citizenship. दूसरी चीज इसमें यह है कि policy frameworks essentially define the broad direction in which a state or an authority would want you to go. The ability to follow that, presuming that that's the right direction, that's also a big question mark sometimes, but let's assume that they've got it right in terms of what policy frameworks you require. Going in that direction requires two things. It requires an ecosystem, which essentially means household, family, and school, which are driving you in that direction. And it requires mentors who you can look up to and follow and then achieve whatever that goal is. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, and I don't think this is an urban-rural divide at all. I think across the board, the home environment is no longer interested in tarbiyat. Wahan be this A obsession and B obsession or whatever it may be, because people want their kids to become successful, right? And because there's a scarcity of available employment and resources in the country, given the population boom that we've experienced over the past 70 years, you're always going to have this me before the community. That's what you have to break. No policy framework can break that. You've got to create the right kind of incentives in that ecosystem. As far as mentors are concerned, I think we have an even bigger problem. If I were to ask every student sitting here who their mentors are, right? Which figure do they espouse to be? What answer would we get? What do you think would be the answer?
Mine are sitting here, three of them. So this is a question for you.
The role models will all be Western.
Yeah.
So actually, let's ask. Can anybody just raise your hand and say, who would you want to follow as a role model? In history or wherever, just what's the name that comes to mind? So let's ask the BNU ones. You are forced to answer. Let's go. I'm going to now start naming you. Hurry up. Who's going to do it?
Mike.
Okay, so climate activists. Okay. Who else? Anybody else? Who would you think of as a role model? Big name, small name, whatever. Anyone? Okay. Others? Okay. Others? Imran. Okay. Others? Teachers. ये तो politically correct answer. Okay. Why am I asking this? Why am I asking this? How many of you have access to these people? And how many of you have them being available to you to guide you day in, day out? Answer would be almost zero.
Yeah.
Here is our problem. Our problem is that number one, most of the names you would get for who's your idea are going to be people who are long dead or were read up in books. If you get to the ones who are around you, they will not have time for you.
Yeah.
So the point
Or
I'm
they'll be
making
selective.
is,
Sorry to cut you short, but they'll be selective in terms of who they want to empower.
no, I think there is a societal mindset that I want to spend my time on doing things that will give me more recognition and take me places rather than spend time with students. It's a big struggle. You can invite somebody as a chief guest and I'm sitting here, Ask me to come and spend half an hour with your students, I'll think twice. That's just the reality. So what I'm saying is that mentors have to step up. Mentees are always looking for mentors. But again, it's a tarbiyat problem. People on our side of the divide or the aisle are actually not investing in young minds to give them that time to learn what success is. And most importantly, to tell them that success is not the figure on your paycheck. It's much more than that. How do you become a good citizen, a good parent, a good whatever? That conversation, I think, if we don't have, we are thinking at BNU of introducing a course. I don't know whether we will or not. The course is going to be 16 sessions or 32 sessions of potential mentors coming and speaking to students about whatever they want. No other questions asked, right? That's where I think people like us need to dedicate time to talk to young minds and guide them, because the kind of despondence I find in our young minds is quite scary.
I would completely agree with that. I don't know if you know, but I'm currently at Oxford and I'm the first Pakistani who has been accepted to the program that I'm studying. But I mentioned this with a pinch of salt that I got there with the support of very few mentors. Three of them are sitting here. Dr. Mohit has written my recommendation letters. Dr. Naima was my MPhil supervisor. Ms. Farah is currently my boss and also a mentor. So it is important to find people who will be there for you in those spaces of time. And I'm not saying it out of just being politically correct. I really mean it that you have to have mentors who can be accessible to you. Extending on the agenda of accessibility and finding mentors. Professor Roxana, my next question would be to you that we talk about having these mentors in place, but as a senior academician, someone who has seen the world quite literally, what is your take on pedagogical frameworks that these mentors can utilize to truly enhance these competencies in educational spheres?
I, first of all, of course, I would like to thank you for I'm going to be your chair and I'm very happy. I do have a very long history of education. I think I started in 1975 as somebody who did, I think most of you were not born in at that time. And I started my journey as a college teacher after my MA, and then of course accumulated all the time with a PhD, went into a career that was very exciting. There's a whole lot of different things from multilateral diplomacy to international partnerships and so on. I hear Moody. I think he has brilliant ideas. I just talked to Arthur, just got to know him now, and his vision of taking the university as like he was solid ground. And I listened to all that has been said by panelists and so on. And you know, she's talking about the ground reality. I hear all of that. And I hear a lot of what is needs to be done and what is not right. And so I will first delve a little bit into where I think we went wrong in our education system. And I look at us, and you talked about it a little bit, the global concept. I think somewhere in this race, I think the colonization put up the first sort of the first nail in the coffin, starting from west-centric approach. We started with frameworks, and within no time, our Eastern wisdom, traditional wisdom was negated to establish Western frameworks. We became illiterate overnight, right? And that was a very political move. It was, what was the purpose? To ruin our identity. And it did that. It just, we were so sensible after attaining independence that we continued that model. We were so bright, you know. And I tell you what the problem is. The problem is, me, all of you, we are educated in Western systems with West-centric approaches, with Western models, and I'm not sure all of us are really native to the country that we call Pakistan, and I'm a Pakistani. And I have been in, at UNESCO, I had a movement for in a collaboration with EFA or EFA with all the leading agencies, international agencies. And they called me in from a developing country of the education, said, Rusana, how do we help? We have so much money to take over to you. And I said, the problem with you is, you come to Pakistan, either you use your own consultants, or either you hire somebody like me. I dress differently, I drink in English, I talk a different language, I carry my water. Am I a Pakistani? I go to a rural area and I'm ashamed of who I am. I'm as foreign to them as you. And they look at me as the other, not as one of themselves. And I think that's the basic difference we have allowed to happen. We have allowed this huge divide to happen. We are the other, we are the Western, West-centric, Western-minded, Western paradigms. If I think, and most of you talked about the fear, and that again, when you lose your identity, you realize that everything that I was doing is wrong, this is the better way to go, follow them. Did we do? We forgot our Eastern philosophy and thinking framework. Our philosophy is not individualistic, that is the Western philosophy. Our philosophy is the collective before me. We lost that. We got into competitions which were, we did not develop each other. We sort of by cut down the other before he could write or she would, what mentorship? There is no mentorship in a society where everybody is for himself. And I think a part of the problem is that the government, well, perhaps in the early years I looked and I reviewed the policies, very good policies, but there were no takers. People like you and me have to implement it. We are not locally grounded. How do we, so our challenge I think in developing frameworks is first demolishing those frameworks that we have led by, or even if not demolished, modify them to your own context. So, as you touched upon it briefly, most of you, and I think we do not do research that takes us to develop our own model. So when you talk about frameworks, and I'm sorry, I have tried to modify because here is this context that is Pakistan and Pakistani mind. And unfortunately, we are trying to stick upon them the foreign models. They do not apply, they do not stick. So there's going to be no sustainability in whatever we do. So we do this one simple thing and then it gets lost. So, your question, and I could actually go on and on, citing real life experiences where I have been very upset with what we are doing in the university. For example, we had a grant from Sheffield University where we were, and this was a very good program, this was to develop the concept of role models in rural communities from community people instead of role models that are unattainable, and you talked about that, there's somebody up there we cannot be close to. We set the role models and the mentors should be community people, so let's identify, let's build their stories, let's train them, let's teach them. We picked up 20 of the volunteers, they volunteered for that program, and they were not getting any money. We sent them 20 kilometers, our FC College University students outside Lahore. And I tell you, they were all shocked because they said, we do not know their language, we do not dress like them, we do not talk. This is now the reality. We have put up a divide that's very wide. So even if we put up leadership, like we say, the leadership is not aware of what the gallery and the audience is about.
Right.
So when the students went out, and I totally agree, we should produce leaders in the university, you know. So when our students went out, one had a colored hair, other had pierced some sort of piercing or something, and we had to tell them we had to have actually a session.
No, 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 completely fine. With your permission, if I'm going to take this conversation forward to Dr. Naima Qureshi. If let's extend on the ideas of developing these frameworks, but in a contextualized fashion, can you maybe talk about the impact that you created in the last cycle of youth support program, and how did you contextualize different skills? Um, let's hear from you from the lived experience.
Thank you so much, Anuj. I think I would like to share something about our projects which we have been doing at the University of Education. I am very proud to be sitting here when two of my mentors are just sitting there, Mr. Dr. Iqbal Senwat and Dr. Shatana Kaisar. When I started my journey here and these were the mentors who were there from the very first day. We planned our first project which was sponsored by the Higher Education Commission. And when we were conceptualizing the idea, I was always of the view that the most important skill which we need to develop is the transferable skills and the life skills. And all these two mentors and all other mentors who are sitting here, they have always endorsed the idea. Because what Dr. Ake, Dr. Munir, and Dr. Ruxana has been emphasizing that this is what is missing. We always talk about pedagogy, we always talk about the capacity building of teachers and young students, but one thing which is missing is developing the life skills, developing the transferable skills. So when we had that project of youth support program in 2016 with the funding of Higher Education Commission that was on the life skills, and we carried out that project in Sheikhupura and Kasur. After that, we have done another project with non-formal basic education that was funded by the Ministry of Non-Formal Education. Again, after consultation with these wonderful mentors, I always emphasize that let's talk about the people who are deprived, who are under resourced, who are under represented. Because I believe as an educationist that education basically is a social justice issue. There are certain people who are deprived of opportunities because of their language, as Dr. Ruxana has rightly pointed out. They are deprived because they do not have access to the right opportunity or the right mentor, or due to their ethnicity or race. So this was the issue which is raised or which is highlighted in the literature as well, that if we want to transform the society, we have to take education as a tool to confront the social injustices which are there. Um, Coming forward to the two projects which I have designed with my mentor, one with University of Warwick with my colleagues from Institute of Engagement and WMG, and other projects which we have just launched last year, a global citizenship project with University of Birmingham. Again, my core focus was developing the life skills and transferable skills, and this is how I have brought this particular dimension of global citizenship. So I ask all these questions to my students as well and to myself as well, that whenever we are talking about career or training, what could be the core values which we want to develop among our students? And the answer is again same: discipline, punctuality, team building, leadership skills. And it is very interesting, few of my students are sitting here and I have been discussing this experience with Professor Dr. Intezar, because I talk a lot about my student experience with two of these mentors. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात है कि जब हम क्लास में स्टूडेंट्स को कोई आर्टिकल पढ़ने को देते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ इट इज नॉट डायरेक्टली रेलेवेंट टू द कोर्स आउटलाइन एंड आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट पॉल फेरारी और आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट अलामा इकबाल और आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट रूमी, तो जो भी लेक्चर खत्म होता है बच्चे मेरे से सवाल करते हैं, मैडम ये तो आपने कराया, क्या ये पेपर में आएगा? So again, as we were discussing, हमारा सारा focus is on rote learning, examination, getting the grades, getting the recognition, getting the reward. At the end of the day, unfortunately, जिस तरह से हम देखते हैं, our society is deteriorating. One of the core reason is that we are not able to identify what is the core issue. The core issue is, of course, the tarbiyah. And this is what I have learned as an education. I have been teaching to the young students in Birmingham, in Coventry, and outskirts. वो हमेशा बच्चों को young students को अपने K1, K4, K2 से ही बच्चों को लाइफ स्किल्स की ट्रेनिंग देते हैं। आप जापान में देखें, बच्चे they clean their own school, there are no cleaners। और यहाँ पे अगर हम बच्चों को कहते हैं तो they always say हमें इससे क्या मिलेगा, what will we get? So I think this is the spirit, this is the kind of passion, this is the kind of commitment which I feel is lacking among our students, but hope is still there. जब मैं अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन दे रही थी तो मुझे लगता है कि जो एक्सपीरियंस मैंने अपना शेयर किया आप सारे यंग स्टूडेंट्स के साथ, उसका एक और पर्पस ये भी था कि बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स ये समझते हैं the opportunities which, for example, I have got earning a scholarship going to the UK. It was just presented to me in grade. It was never like that. There is a whole journey of 15
There should be a book chapter about that.
So that's what I'm saying that this is the whole journey of 15 to 20 years. मैं खुद एक गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में पढ़ी हूँ जहाँ हमारे पास इतने पॉश क्लासरूम्स नहीं थे। मैंने टाट के स्कूलों को देखा है, मैंने एक्सपीरियंस किया है। जो एक चीज मैंने अपने मेंटोर से लर्न की और मैंने अपने टीचर से लर्न की वो ये कि देयर इज ऑलवेज अ काइंड ऑफ reward which you get after 10 to 15 years. आपका जितना वॉलंटियर वर्क मैंने यूके में किया या पाकिस्तान में किया, मुझे लगता है कि वो रिवॉर्ड है, वो वॉलंटियरशिप, वो कमिटमेंट, वो कम्युनिटी इंगेजमेंट, सेल्फ डिसिप्लिन, पंक्चुअलिटी, जो हम फॉर्मली या इनफॉर्मली एक्टिविटीज में इन्वॉल्व करके खुद सीखते हैं। आई थिंक दिस इज द कोर लेसन जो आप सारे स्टूडेंट्स इस वक्त हॉल में मौजूद हैं, मुझे लगता है यू शुड learn this lesson as a life lesson. That this is not about only degree or reward or GPA or getting the best dress or how you will look. लेकिन फिर मुझे ये सुनने को मिलता है एक दफा ऐसे ही बात प्रोफेसर साना ने मुझे कहा कि you are only responsible to yourself. So if we are thinking problems and issues which are too bigger, I think we become very overwhelmed. And at that point, at some point, we feel frustrated. मुझे लगता है वो जो negativity या frustration है, we need to counter that as well. We cannot change the whole world, but as we say that if you are not the part of the solution, then you are the part of the problem. So this is what I remind my student and myself as a learner again and again. I think this is what I wanted to share, that the curriculum, the pedagogical approaches, the policy frameworks, if we keep these set aside, the main lesson is that we have to develop learning attitude in our students. And as we were discussing about approaching the mentors, I have been very lucky to have my mentors all around. और मुझे लगता है जैसे हम mentors की बात करते हैं तो mentors का ये मतलब नहीं कि mentors आपके यूनिवर्सिटी का कोई प्रोफेसर ही हो